Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. The man who rules the world breaks in a brand new partner to help him take care of business in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Taking Care of Business at paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. In a previous video, I talked about how Goldman Sachs was going to spend $10 billion towards empowering 1 million black women economically. And in this video, I'm going to talk about a concept I presented in that video, the economic emasculation of black men. Now, what is the economic emasculation of black men? That is where white supremacists and others team up to deny a black man the ability to go out here and make a living. Now, this economic emasculation is all about denying a black man the ability to be that head of household that God established under God's natural order. Because in God's natural order, God made the man to be the head of household, and God made the man to be the steward who was supposed to be in charge of the home. But that man cannot be in charge of his home if he has no way to provide that living for himself or his family. So what your white supremacists and their supporters do is they make a willful and concerted effort with malice of forethought to deny the black man an opportunity to go out here and get access to jobs or to get access to loans to start his own business. So what they do is they wind up emasculating the black man, because if he cannot go out here and make a living to take care of his family, then he cannot be the leader of his family. So if the man is economically emasculated and the woman is empowered, then the woman is the one in charge of the family. So what they do is they deny that black man access to getting a job or being able to start a business, and then they go out here and hire the woman and they help the woman start her businesses. And because she is the one with the economic power, the black man has to submit to the woman, and he has to wind up living under the woman because the woman has the economic power. Now, this economic emasculation is something that is done with complete malice of forethought, and it's done with malice of forethought because it's all about trying to destroy the black community and destroy the black economy. Now, your white supremacists don't want there to be a competing economy with theirs, so what they do is they try to undermine the black economy by making it where the black man cannot go out here and make a living or start businesses to compete with his own. So what he wants to do is keep the black woman dependent on him, and he keeps her dependent on him by having her be thinking that she's empowered. But in actuality, she is getting primarily all of her resources from this white man. He is the one giving the black woman jobs. He is the one allowing her to get these loans. And he is the one going out here and doing this because he knows that your females are primarily a consumer-based group and not a producer-based group. And when you have consumers who are caught up in their emotions primarily, what happens is they are all focused on buying goods from whites and non-blacks and not about trying to create supplies like a logical, critical thinking black man would. Because the black man, if he were in charge, he would be focused on building, and he would also be focused on inventing. And white supremacy does not want to see black men going out here to build and invent. because if those black men go out here and build and invent, they are going to create items that become fixed, tangible items that become wealth building assets. And they don't want black men creating wealth building assets, because if black men create wealth building assets, they will start to build not only economic power, but they will also build political power. So they what they want to do is, again, keep the black man from competing in the job market, competing in business, and they don't want that black man in these areas, because if this black man, again, starts to go out here and build his businesses, goes out here and starts hiring other black people and starts creating enterprise, what happens is they have to compete against that black man, and that's something they just don't want to do. This is why your racists would go out of their way to fabricate stories like the ones about white women being raped, talking about how to go out here and destroy towns like Rosewood and Black Wall Street, because if there are thriving black communities, that means that mediocre white folks won't be able to compete. So what they want to do is neuter and emasculate the black man and put him in a child's role, because they don't want to compete with a group of healthy, functional black men, and they don't want to go out here and have to go out here, and what they really fear is that these black men will start to be like Michael Jordan. They will start to be like all of these NBA players and dominate fields like the NFL and the NBA. And they fear what will happen is, if these black men start to dominate like they do in sports, they will not be able to make a living. So what they want to do is economically emasculate this black man and keep him from being able to challenge their economic infrastructure. So that's what they really want to do with this black man. They want to be able to economically emasculate him and prevent him from having any sort of economic power. And this is something that has been going on for over a century. This is why we had Jim Crow in the South. This is why we had discrimination in the North. They really did not want this black man to have any job outside of these low-level positions like janitor and chauffeur and basically porters and stuff like that. Low-paying, low-wage jobs, because they did not want that black man to come up economically. And they still participate in that discrimination, but these days what they do is, instead of them being blatantly racist about it, what they do is they manipulate programs like affirmative action, talking about how they can hire this black woman, and they'll use this black woman as a way to meet their so-called diversity quotas, and then give her the economic empowerment that the black man was supposed to have, because affirmative action was originally about correcting past discrimination of black men. But they'll give it to the black woman because they want her to have control over the dollars in the black community. And as she has control over the black community and the black man has no money, what happens is these emasculated black men have to go out here and submit to the females in order to get their economic needs met. And again, this is done by design to prevent the black man from gaining access to the economy. And this is the type of discrimination that your Goldman Sachs is participating in. And this economic emasculation, again, is about taking away a black man's economic power and denying him access to the American economy to be able to make that living and be able to be that head of household. Because one of the things that white supremacy greatly fears is a black man being the head of his household, being the father over his home, and being in charge as a leader and authority over his home. Because when the father is in charge, that means that they cannot be able to gain access to the woman or the children, because they are following the lead of the man. and the man is not going to allow certain things into his home. If a black man were in charge of his home, do you think we would have gangster rap? Do you think we would have groups like T-Live Crew talking about me so horny? Do you think we would have guys like Ice Cube and the NWA talking about thugs and crime? Do you think we would have Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion talking about WAP? No, you wouldn't have any of those things, because when you have a black man in charge of the home, there are certain standards he is going to establish for his home. And when the black man has economic power over his home and control over the dollars in that home, he is going to insist that those dollars be spent a certain way. And that's why they don't want the black man to have those dollars, because when that black man has control over that black dollar, what happens is that dollar is primarily going to go to black-owned businesses, and it's going to go towards going out here to building infrastructure and items that allow him to build and maintain a black economy. So when a black man has control over the dollar, he is going to invest the dollar towards either a black-owned business he has or a black venture he has, and that dollar is going to go and stay in his community. Meanwhile, if you empower the black woman, primarily most of the dollars are going out of your community, primarily to white and non-black businesses. And because the black woman is a consumer, she's going to go out here and buy all of these different goods and items, services, because she wants to get social currency and she wants to climb the white supremacist social ladder. So when the black woman is controlling the dollar and she's got the power of the dollar, that benefits your white supremacists, and it benefits them because they can not only have control over her dollar and spend 97% of her dollars, they have control over their dollars, so they have control over a complete economy. And when your black man is economically emasculated, he has no real power to change anything in his community. He can make all the efforts he wants, but because he does not have access to the dollars, he cannot really make any lasting changes, because when he's in control when he's not in control of the dollar, he cannot go out here and make demands of politicians, because most females don't make demands of politicians, and he cannot go out here and insist on certain standards for anything because he has no dollars to invest in anything. So whenever you have an economically emasculated man, you have a community that is basically under the control of the females, and many of the females don't really understand what is needed to maintain standards in a community. Usually a man knows about these things because he is, again, a head of household and a steward, and God made him for that role. He made him to be that leader. But when you have your females in charge, they're not thinking about being able to build and maintain a community with standards. No, they are only thinking about going out here and gaining social currency, because the female is primarily social, and all she's thinking about is social currency. And she's thinking about things like hair and nails and clothes and stuff like that. So she's not thinking about, hey, let's build some businesses, or let's have some values as related to family. No, she's not thinking about those things, because she's only thinking about what's being cool, and she's also thinking about trying to impress other people, whereas a man is not thinking about impressing other people. He's just thinking about taking care of business and making sure everything is up to the standards of the Most High God. So she's thinking about things that are of God, and I mean, he's thinking about things as related to God, but this guy is not thinking about these kind of things. He's only thinking about trying to be Mr. Cool. And she's thinking about being Mrs. Cool, and he's not thinking about she's not thinking about anything long term. So she's not really thinking about trying to build anything. She's not thinking about maintaining anything. And that's all beneficiary to white supremacy, because they're going to get her money. And then once they get her money, all they're thinking about is getting rich at her expense. So an economically emasculated man is something that benefits white supremacy. And that's why so many black men like myself have a hard time getting jobs. And that's why we have a hard time starting businesses, and why we even have a harder time getting support for our businesses. So when we go out here and we're trying to build economic bases, we are just, again, facing a lot of an uphill battle. But a lot of people don't understand that's by design, because they don't want a black man having economic power. Because again, when you have a black man in charge of the dollar, he's going to build and compete, and they don't want to see a black man go out here and build and compete. And that's why they would rather have 1 million black women out here going out here with money, because they know that 1 million black women will give them $3.3 trillion in spending power back to them. And that $3.3 trillion in cash and credit, 97% of it goes back to whites and non-blacks. And that's what they're setting up with this whole thing about 1 million black women. It's all a plan to continue the economic emasculation of black men. Now, if you want to support my black-owned business, SJS Direct, you can pick up many of my books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle, Vampires Stalk the Darkness of the Eternal Night. Get your copy of Eternal Night in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com.